Hey, what's up everyone, and welcome to another new episode and new video of About Skateboarding. Now again, if you're new here, my name is Sean and I do videos here about the entire world of skateboarding. And just a quick reminder to everyone out there as well that if you wanted to stream these episodes and videos in the audio version, you can do that over on both Spotify and over on Apple Podcasts as well, in their full versions too. So just be aware of that as well. And now it's been a little while since I made a longer form video of just audio, and I kind of wanted to kind of reaffirm this podcast because it is a podcast. It is on YouTube, as you know, as you're watching this, so you know that much, as well. But I just wanted to make a kind of like a reestablish what this is supposed to be about, because I noticed about, I think it was a day or two ago, that I've just hit, or I've just passed the 10 episode mark, which is nothing at all as far as like overall podcasts and these types of speaking engagement videos and things like that. But one thing I noticed is that in the past few videos or episodes, because they are different based on where you are listening or watching it from. But I've noticed something recently that where I've already been kind of speeding up each video and shortening them a little bit, and kind of not going into things as much as I wanted to in the first place. And that's just kind of like is lately based on a little bit of feedback that I got from some people that were watching the videos on YouTube, as well, that they wanted some more production value of it, and some more, just more, I won't say professionalism, but just more production to make it like seem like I'm some sort of like professional video production company, or just something that's kind of like not what I had the intention of doing in the first place with this whole thing. Because really the whole entire reason why I wanted to start this channel, this podcast, and just have the whole thing is to really, again, do as much of a deep dive as I can, with no time frame and no time length on each video or episode, about just to be able to dive into more feelings and more process. And if you're not into the whole thing of like watching someone or listening to someone talk for upwards of 15 to 30 minutes each episode, that's all good. Then don't watch it. It's all good. I really don't care. That's not why I'm here doing this. Because I want to do this because I've tried those kind of channels before for other areas of interest that I have, like photography and video production and things like that. And they're fun to do. They have their own place and their own space. But I felt like I was always rushing through things, and it was just made me feel kind of inadequate as a creator, and as someone that's expressing my feelings and thoughts towards things that I love, which is skateboarding and photography and video stuff and all that stuff too. So with that being said, I just want to remind everyone that again, this is not meant to be a quick, short, less than 10-minute video. And overall, none of these episodes are meant to be that way. Again, I put them on those other platforms such as Spotify and Apple Podcast intentionally, because some people actually do enjoy audio versions of them only. But again, I know the current state of media, social media, is short form content is the way to go, or I should say it's trending. I shouldn't say it's the way to go. It's trending. But again, I'm not the kind of creator with this area that wants to do short, length everything. And there's a reason why I don't do any reels or stories or anything like that, because it's just not the way I want things to be heard and viewed and have this whole thing presented on. So again, just to reinstate that, so if you are not someone who, or if you're someone who's not really interested in watching a video of me, discussing and talking about things for quite a while, then please move on. It's all good. I really don't care. No worries. Now, with all that being said and out of the way now, I just wanted to get into the whole process of what today's video and episode is going to be about, which is, I titled it as "Is Skateboarding Worth It?" And the reason why is because as I was again hitting 10 episodes of this podcast, of this channel, and I've already gone through a lot of stuff, and 10 episodes of roughly 20 minutes an episode on average, about how I feel about skateboarding in the whole world and how it's impacted me and my history with it, and some vulnerabilities and just advice that I've given throughout a few episodes. And none of it, I don't regret any of it that I've given and the things that I've stated, but I've gotten away already from the idea that I wanted to even start this whole thing off with, and that's what we're going to go back to now. So basically what I wanted to kind of discuss and kind of feel out in this video is, in this episode, is how it was a few days ago where I was watching football, and this is for the NFL, and essentially I've never, as a kid, I didn't care about sports, like professional sports at all. I thought they were very, very stupid and very ordinary, and I didn't like the idea of team sports as a kid. I thought it was kind of a weird cliche kind of thing, and that's part of what also pushed me indirectly into the whole world of skateboarding because I love the idea at that time seemingly that I could do a hobby or an interest on my own and pursue it on my own and not require or need anyone else, whether it's a coach or whatever else or any kind of game plan or anything like that to do it for skateboarding. And not only that, but just the culture of skateboarding I loved the idea because as a kid I visited my extended family that were all in Southern California at the time, and I went there every year with my family just to see them, and I always loved and admired the entire skateboarding culture of just like the beach and where it started as surfing and then went to cement and land, but just the beach vibes and just the relaxed atmosphere and how relaxed it was and how chill it was and just how new skateboarding really is because it still is a very very new thing even now in 2025. It's only been around for 50 years or a little bit more than that as far as like an overall sport and just the overall evolution of a journey it's been through on its own and the waves of interest and falls and popularity and X Games and TV and all that and then video games and all that kind of crazy stuff. Just how much of a journey it's already gone through as a sport and then also fallen off completely multiple times. And I feel like every skateboarder, no matter what level that they're at, has a very interesting journey to tell, essentially. And I think that it's really cool and really rad that a lot of skaters choose to tell that story through skating itself. They will make video parts or just skate and get better and just develop and that kind of thing. I think that's really cool. So for me, what I wanted to kind of discuss in this one, back to the topic, is that again, I grew up not liking sports at all. I did play sports. I did play for up until I was roughly about middle school, so sixth, seventh grade, and I played baseball. Tried basketball. I did golf even for a while, and I enjoyed it. They're all okay, but I always just felt that was weird that I had to have like such a collective environment, which is why some people love sports, and that's all good. But I was watching the NFL a few days ago, and I just noticed how obsessive people are about it as far as like watching it, betting on it, fantasy stuff, and that's one thing that really turned me away from sports in the beginning was just how much people are obsessed with it and all that kind of stuff. And I thought that the reasons at that time when I was a kid especially were awkward and weird and not normal. Honestly, I didn't like the reasons for why people were obsessed with sports. And again, I have nothing at all against sports at all. It's just from my point of view, I didn't really understand them. I thought they were weird. I tried to play them for a couple years myself, and I didn't like the idea of having to rely on other people. I felt like just having your own journey was a good enough thing by itself. And so as I've gotten older, again, now I'm in my late 30s with a family and kids, and they play sports, and I do have a definite different outlook and overview and scope of what sports are now because when my son was born, roughly 7 or 8 years ago, I basically had nothing to do when he was born. I was very lucky with my employer at the time. I got time off my job to spend with him and bond. And so it was winter time too, and I had nothing to do at all besides take care of him, which is not, just is what it is. Just taking care of a kid all day, so it's all good. So I ended up watching, and it happened to be because he's born in October, so I turned on the NFL and I live in Minnesota, and it was the Vikings. So I started to watch the NFL just once or twice here, just for their games, and it was just it was a very awkward kind of thing with me to watch even that. And then it's kind of become more of a thing where I do watch it every year now, literally just for fun. I don't gamble on it. I don't place bets. I don't do fantasy. I don't get all heated online, especially nowadays with social media about it. I don't do any of that kind of stuff. I just enjoy watching it just for the sheer aspect of how they can be so like aggressive and it's just a very interesting thing to watch from week to week. I do love soccer though, like football, European football, soccer. I do love that just because I think it's a very different environment and a lot more chill as well. But the reason what I'm trying to get at here is that again, I grew up really not liking sports. I didn't hate sports. I just didn't like them. I didn't really understand them. And as I've gotten older, I've kind of turned to respect them a little bit more. And in the last few days to like the last few weeks, I've been wondering if I regretted not playing sports or pursuing them more as a teenager and as a young adult, like 17, 18-year-old, like in like high school. Because at that time, I just worked and I went skateboarding and I went to concerts. And that was it. I was a very creative, working young kid. And again, recently I was just wondering, I'm like, do I regret skateboarding as a kid and how it shaped me and how it developed me and things like that. And it actually, like, my thoughts and feelings towards it, like, kind of like were kind of somewhat divided because I don't regret skateboarding as a kid. Like, it definitely taught me as a journey a lot of things that I am very proud of who I am. Like, it taught me, for the most part, besides some other external stuff like with my own family, but like, it definitely taught me, how to, be determined, how to be courageous, how to be confident, how to deal with something not going your way and having no control over it for the day, maybe for the most part. And that goes along the lines of, like, not landing tricks that you thought you were great at or that you thought you had mastered, and just having to deal with it for the day and having to try a little harder and emphasize something about the trick more to get it to go the way you want it to go. So there's many parts of skateboarding in that aspect of that area that I definitely appreciate and love and will always admire about it. And but it is a different kind of feeling of just looking back now. I'm like, well, do I wish I did something else as a kid besides be because I was a very obsessive skateboarder as a kid from the age of 7 or 8 years old when I got when I got my first professional board through all the way through my mid 20s. I was very obsessive about it. I wanted to go pro. I wanted to be sponsored. I wanted to travel the world and skateboard every single day of my life, and then that would be it. And that's what I wanted my career to be. And even more so because of that, I did not actually pursue any in school stuff as far as like educationally really at all because I was very again I was very I can't understand it. I was very obsessed like about just trying to become a pro skater. And then eventually at the age of like 16, 17, I started to play drums and I became a musician, not in school but just in bands like punk rock bands and alternative rock bands. And then that kind of took over, and skateboarding went a little bit more towards the side of interest because I just knew I wasn't very good at it, and I felt like I wasn't developing the way I thought it was. I thought it was important enough to be, because back then skateboarding had this really weird view, I felt at least, where if you were going to be a great skateboarder, then you had to be sponsored pretty young, like way younger than I was, like like 11 or 12. And this was back when like people like Shaun White and Ryan Sheckler were like the kind of like the new age of talent because they're my age. And back then they were kind of considered to be the new minimum expectation of what you had, of how good you had to be to get to where other levels of skateboarding would be, like with Tony Hawk and other professionals that are known on an international level. And I was nowhere near either of them for talent and obviously fame, and not fame. I shouldn't say fame and money, but just like talent for sure. Like I wasn't anywhere near them. Like I was having really bad trouble just getting basic tricks done. Like I really couldn't like stick a 360 flip for my life, and I was scared to skate on anything that was massive. And I felt like, because I've said this in other episodes before too, as I was a very timid skater. I always have been, so I was always very nervous, like pretty badly nervous about getting hurt skating. Not for any reasons of like anxiety or whatever like that. I was just afraid of getting hurt. I just didn't want to fall. I didn't want to get hurt. And when you skate, and if you want to be great and be at that level, then you have to be okay with getting hurt. And if you talk to any professional skater, or any even non-professional, if you talk to any skateboarder that's really talented and does huge things, like they can give you an easy like book list of injuries and broken bones and things that they've been through as an experience. And they don't, most of the time they don't like even throw any shade about it. They're like, yeah, it's part of the journey of skating. And that's one thing that I never had. I never had the ability myself to just be like, yeah, I'm gonna get hurt. Oh well, that sucks. That's life. I never was like that. I wanted to get past it many, many times during my process of learning how to skate and things like that. But there was a lot of times, like I remember when I was about 11 or 12 years old, and I remember when it would be like later at night, like 7 or like 10 o'clock at night, and I couldn't be at the skate park, so I would go into my at the time when I lived at home, and we had a really big garage that had cement in it, and so I could go. I was allowed to go skate in the garage because it was like all indoor for what it was, and it wasn't super loud, so I could skate in there and practice tricks. So I spent a lot of nights, trying to better my tricks and become better overall, just doing flatland stuff and just riding and just heel flipping, kick flipping, 360 flipping, pop shove it's just basic essentials of skateboarding. And for whatever reason, I just couldn't get any better at them. I tried for hours and hours and hours, and it never seemed to get better. I learned how to do them. I could do them, but it was nowhere near the level of that I saw at that age of like other skaters. Like I hate to say it on a professional level, but that's what they were, which is a bad comparison for me, which I've again said I've gone against in some previous episodes here, but because it's bad to compare yourself to them. But I just wasn't getting any better at landing them. I was always afraid of falling, and it was just a not healthy type of situation. And it didn't shy me away from skateboarding, and it never did that. It didn't like destroy my outlook on skateboarding. I just kind of like had to kind of reassess how I felt about my future with it. And all I mean by that is like when I was like 13, 14 years old, because again I skated till I skated almost every single day until I was about in my early 20s, and I always took it pretty seriously. But over time, because of the fact that I never got any better, never really developed any further, and I kind of like felt like it wasn't like it wasn't. I don't know. It wasn't like it didn't like take down my feelings about the sport or any kind of a drive I had towards it. But I kind of just I don't know. It was this weird thing where you do something that you love for a long time, but you kind of get to a point where I guess there's two ways to put it. You can take one road, which is where you can try and push through that block and break through it, and then continue on developing and just keep pushing, pushing, pushing. And that's cool if that happens. It does happen for some things. And then there's the other road, which is when I did take just by just natural course, which is where you will kind of I don't want to say it's not about like it's not about not a matter of like accepting defeat. It's not that. It's just a matter where you take your love for something and you kind of like almost in a way like tone it down a little bit. And I'm not sure that's in the right word, but maybe not tone it down, but you take the thing that you love and your ambition towards it, and then you kind of move it into this other avenue of interest where it's like, hey, I will always have that in my life in some form. It's always going to be there for me. I will always enjoy doing it, but it may not pay the bills. It may not get me to travel the world. It may not be the end all be all of my life journey, my experience, but it's always there for me. I know I'm good at it. I know I could have been great maybe, but I'm not. It's just you don't give up on yourself necessarily, but you get to a point with it where it's like, okay, I get it. I just don't know if it's gonna work out that way, and that's okay. And then again, it's a very weird, interesting point because at that point it's usually one of the two roads where it's like either you break through it and say screw that, hell no, I'm gonna keep going, I'm gonna pursue this in like twice as hard and break through that mold, break through that barrier and just keep going and go as far as you can. And sometimes people can do that, and if they do, awesome, I'm stoked for them, I love that. But for me, for some whatever reason, with skateboarding, it never happened. It just never became a thing where I just I never was able to break through that barrier on a personal level and continue to push myself and get to a level where I felt good enough to film anything. Because what I was trying to do was I was trying to get good enough with overall skateboarding to where I could film a video and put it into some companies to get sponsored, just the bare minimum of what sponsorship really was. back then and it is now to some extent. But and that was my goal at the time as like a 13, 14-year-old, was to really make a minimal like 5-minute video part of just me skateboarding, and then go and send it to like at the time I think it was like Birdhouse and or Baker, or like just a few a few companies that I have a lot of respect for, that were huge back then especially. And that was my goal. I wanted to get sponsored by them. I wanted to meet the skaters themselves and go on trips with them, and that was the whole idea. I thought there was nothing better in life than that as a result of a journey with skateboarding. And there was never any like kind of one moment or any kind of one day where I realized that it wasn't going to happen. It was like this really, I think it was like during the summertime, I think it was. I don't remember what age I was, but it was like a really weird time during the summer where I was in the garage one night skateboarding, trying to really like land like a 360 flip like every time, like, consistently, and it just wasn't happening. And most skaters with the other mentality of breaking through the mold of it or breaking the barrier would just be like, would chalk it up to like a bad day where it's like, hey, just today it's not working, it's not flipping, it's not spinning or whatever. I'll just keep doing it tomorrow. It's all good. And for me, I just got to a point where I was like, okay, I'm not getting any better at this. It's not happening. This sucks. I hate this. And oh well. And I remember going into my house, and I remember, and this kind of speaks to other areas I mentioned in other episodes too, other videos where it's bad to almost bad sometimes to watch the skateboarding videos after you have a bad day of skating, because obviously those are shot and filmed over anywhere over the course of days, weeks, months, years, whatever it might be, and it's all edited down of just the perfect, seemingly like the greatest reel of tricks that these skaters do. And I made the mistake of myself where I remember that night where I did actually like go and watch some, I don't know which video it was, but I watched some video, and it made me feel even worse about my skating. So it just sucked for that reason too. Like I remember I had a bad night of skating, couldn't land this trick, go inside, put on a video, felt even worse about my skating itself, and then I just went to bed. And the next day I had a weird reckoning in a way. And again, I don't remember. It wasn't all just this one time. It was like it was months. It was the summertime of months where I just didn't work like skateboarding. Like my tricks weren't developing. I wasn't getting better. I wasn't learning anything new. I wasn't it was just a bad time. And then what was interesting is that at the end of the summer, when school came back in soon, I was like, well, I don't know if I like this as much as I used to. And again, I wasn't quitting. It was never like a quitting factor. Like there was never an option. But I kind of just realized, and I kind of like naturally, mentally went to this mental aspect where I was like, hey, you know what? It's okay. It's okay if I don't do all this for skate. Like it's okay if skateboarding doesn't do all this for me. I can do other things. And then I kind of just naturally weirdly went to this like new mental headspace of where I was like, okay, that's all right. It's all good. It happens. And so coming to up to now of 2025 and thinking back of was skateboarding worth it. And I feel like for every skater, again, every journey is different, and I've always said that, and I always will say that. But I feel like it's a very interesting topic because of the fact that I feel like, again, I see all these young kids nowadays who are like 8, 9 years old, and they're ripping, and they're skating, skating like crazy, doing insane tricks that I never even attempted to try on different crazy places, and how clean they're doing it too, and I have so much respect for that too. But I was like, and it's funny because like after a certain point, I was at a certain point I was very jealous of them to be able to do all those things, and then now I'm like now it's more become more of a respectful view of them. I'm like that's right, that's cool, like good for them. You know what I mean? And it's a very interesting change of outlook that I've had in the last, like especially from when I was like 14, 15 years old up until I was like mid 20s, which is when I kind of like stopped skating for a while, because I was like, well, I don't really see the point of it at that point anymore, for as much as it being what it was for an obsession of daily activity, so to speak. So I mean, there's not really a point to this video that I'm trying to get to here. I just wanted to make more of a reflection video and just a fun, hopefully fun, like an interesting look back, emotional video about how, you know, skateboarding can be just something fun to do and keep you healthy and keep you going. And that's kind of what it's become for me now, in a fun way where it's like I do it every now and then. I do it when I can, and I don't do any crazy tricks anymore. I just enjoy riding the board, and it still gives me the same feeling I had when I was a kid, even like 4 years old, of learning to ride a board for the first time. I still get that feeling. That's why I still do it, because I still enjoy getting on a board and just pushing myself around, and just that feeling still feels great. And that's really, for me at least, one of the best reasons to skate in the first place. It isn't always about the process of doing a trick you've never done before. It's not always about the process of learning something new, or or going out there and just destroying the streets of skateboarding. And sometimes it's really just about getting on the board and riding around and having the feeling of, as cliche as it sounds, but just gliding. You know what I mean? Just gliding while you're riding. Because to me, when I was younger, that's why I enjoyed starting doing it in the first place. And so, like, do I regret skateboarding at all, or like, to answer that question, it's like definitely not. I learned so many things as far as like just as a human being, just from the process of trying to get better as a kid. And I think there's a lot of things that skateboarding will naturally teach you that you will never ever learn in sports, like team sports, I mean. And unless you skate for even a day or two and try and do anything just from getting on the board and riding a board and just trying to curve around and just navigate on it, like, all that can be tricky too. So, I just feel like it's got its own place in everyone's life for a reason. And it's funny because I was also thinking earlier about how, like what even inspired me in the first place to even start skating in the first place, and just thinking back to that point even too. But so no, I don't regret it. I think it taught me a lot as a kid, and again, I still do it every now and then, like when I can. It's not every day anymore or anything like that, just because it's just not. But um, it's a fun it's a fun activity. It's just fun to do, and and it's just one of those things where it's like the whole point of it. I feel like the whole point of skateboarding to most people is to feel youthful and feel like they're a kid. And to that aspect, it definitely succeeded, because I always feel like a young kid when I get on a board. And most of the time, a lot of your daily issues can easily kind of float away and be gone when you're skating, because you can't think about that stuff when you're skating. And it also is a thing where, for me at least, where when you're skating and when you're riding a board, again, not doing tricks, I'm not saying that, but just when you're riding a board, just the feeling of gliding along is one of the best feelings that there is. And it makes you just feel really like no one can touch you. And probably one of the best things, at least for me, about it is that you're in your own world, you're in your own journey of doing it. And it's a very unique feeling to skate, just and skate around. It's a very unique feeling, and that's almost probably the best part on its own too. So I'll leave it at that for now. But yeah, I'll leave it at that for now. So again, I don't regret skateboarding overall, and I wish I would have done some things differently. I wish I would have been more aggressive with it, just to see if it would have worked out any differently as far as that goes. But it is what it is for that part. It's all about the journey. So yeah, so hopefully you enjoyed this video, this episode. Again, I wanted to dive a little bit deeper again and make a longer one, for, it's been a while since I've done that. So hope you enjoyed this. If you did, definitely give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more. If you're listening to it, thank you very much for that as well. And otherwise, thank you for watching. Thanks for listening as always. And I'll see you guys all in the next episode.